So if they ever just able to resolve a Rakdos return, they're usually like, here's a Polychronos, all right? I have to deal with it somehow. All right, here's a Stormbreath Dragon. Okay, I have to deal with it somehow. And then Rakdos return. Like, you just can't keep 3 mana up for Dissolve every single time.
Elvish Mystic going to start things off here for VanMeter. Both players kept their 7. You see Chihoy, you got to take a look at his top card from the Temple of Enlightenment. Going to put that on to the bottom. We'll see if VanMeter has something like a turn 2 Domri.
Oof.
He has Domri in his hand, but the land is a Temple of Abandon.
Oh, that temple. That darn temple.
Oh, darn, I just get the scry.
I'll have to resolve my Domri on turn 3.
Yeah.
Like a normal person.
Here's an attack for 1 from the Mystic, and just simply passing the turn back. Will VanMeter over to Yim, who's going to play a Plains and pass the turn back. He does have access to Syncopate in his deck. 2 copies of that does Chihoy. See, VanMeter kept an Overgrown Tomb on top. He's going to play that untapped. We'll see if he wants to go with Domri or maybe a Rampager. One thing is for sure is he's going to go with Domri to try to play around Syncopate. You know that Chris knows this matchup well.
Yeah.
That's the big one here. And he's going to attack first before actually activating Domri in case he gets Azorius Charmed, for example.
Exactly.
Now we're going to tick up, and there's a hit. Stormbreath Dragon, a real good hit.
So there you go. It looks like Chihoy might have an answer to detention in the form of Detention Sphere, but again, Chris did get some value out of that Domri.
So Liam does Cycle and Azorius Charm. Draws a card from that, draws a card for his turn. You see a Hallowed Fountain is going to play that, coming to play untapped. He's going to go down to 16 to Detention Sphere Domri. So that stage of the game is taken care of here for Chihoy, but VanMeter has plenty of things to do in the meantime. We know about the Stormbreath Dragon. He did draw a Blood Crypt for the turn, so he can cast Stormbreath Dragon now if he'd like to. Might walk into Supreme Verdict, but the thing here is that it forces Chihoy to have Supreme Verdict this turn.
Yeah, and plus, because Chihoy played a Hallowed Fountain untapped, he might not have a 4th land. Or if he does, it's a tap land. So, yeah, you always have to go for the Stormbreath there and put the pressure on them. They don't have a lot of answers to Stormbreath. And you do have double Gore Clan Rampager, so you could just end the game next turn.
Yep.
Celestial Flare is probably his only answer main deck. And again, if you just attack with your Elvish Mystic too, you can play around that. So Chris VanMeter threatening lethal pretty quickly here.
And before, and I actually, I like the point you make there on a couple fronts. One, he played Hallowed Fountain untap, which is like a loud sign that, okay, you don't have a 4th land.
Yeah.
Or if you do, maybe it's a Guild Gate, maybe it's a Temple, whatever. You know, that's the one thing. Here's a divination. So I think Yim is just going to die on the next turn. But the other thing, too, is just, you know, before I think some people may have postured about, oh, I'm going to try to pick my spot with my Stormbreath Dragon. Oh, forget that.
Yeah.
Make him have it. Because if he doesn't have it, he's probably going to lose immediately. And if he does, it's like, I've got these Rampagers to cast, and these other things. And you see Yim just with a smile as VanMeter shows him 2 copies of Gore Clan Rampager to Blood Rush. And just that quickly, we are off to game number 2 as Chris VanMeter wins game number 1 here at Jund Monsters, up 1 over Blue-White Control.
Yeah, I think, you know, you're going to make the Stormbreath Dragon play most of the time. But again, really playing the Hallowed Fountain untapped, that should be a signal to players because, okay, why did he do that? He needed to get the 3 mana. That tells me he doesn't have either a basic island, a basic plains, or a Mutavault in his hand because he has access to blue and white already. So he doesn't have one of those cards. He could have a temple in his hand, but he needs to get the 3, so he plays the Hallowed Fountain. So now I know there's a good chance he doesn't have a 4th land in play that can come to play on tap. It could be a 3rd, one of the 3 Hallowed Fountains remaining in his deck, but I kind of have a good sense that he probably doesn't have a 4th mana that can come to play untapped now. So that's even better reason for me to play Stormbreath Dragon here.
I actually think it's important for Blue, White, or Esper, or whatever, these Revelation decks to actually win game 1 against Jund Monsters because things only get worse for them. If we take a look at VanMeter's sideboard here, I know Chihoy is going to be on the play, but just to kind of demonstrate that point, you take a look at VanMeter's sideboard, 3 Mistcutters Hydras, 3 Annihilation Disciple, 2 Putrefy, 2 Golgari Charm, 2 Rakdos Return, a Doomblade, a Mizium Mortars, and a Vraska in the Unseen. You gotta like Vraska, you gotta like those 2 Rakdos Returns, the 2 Charms, that's 5. 3 Mistcutters is 8. Those are 8 high-impact cards he gets to bring in. That's a really big deal. Now, I'm sure that Yim knows VanMeter's list. He's a very skilled player. We've seen Chris has been winning with this deck and writing about it for multiple months, so he's got a lot of options available to him as well.
Yeah, the problem with Blue-White after board is that you just hit the nail on the head. You're dealing with so many threats. The cards that Chris is bringing in, they're not like, you know, you have some sideboard cards that are just like, you know, a Golgari Charms, etc. Those are like kind of reactive cards. He's bringing in some proactive threats, and that's always difficult for control decks to deal with because you only have so many counter spells, and you're not really gaining a lot of value out of dealing with some of these permanents. So, like, if he gets an activation off of Vraska, he's killing something.
Yep.
If he's hits you with Mistcutter Hydra, you're taking a lot of damage. If he hits you with Rakdos Return, the game is likely over.
Yeah, you probably lose.
I mean, Chihoi doesn't have that many cards to bring in here. He's got another copy of Celestial Flare. He's got a copy of Blind Obedience, which could help against Stormbreath a little bit, that make the Supreme Verdicts live against them. A copy of Fated Retribution to deal with some of those Planeswalkers as well. He also has one copy of Negate, which he might bring in as another counterspell for a Rakdos return. But again, those aren't really none of those cards are like overwhelmingly powerful in this matchup compared to the kind of power cards that Chris is bringing. Like Chris is bringing in cards that like kind of put the nail in the coffin, whereas Chihoi is bringing in cards to kind of not lose.
Yeah.
And that's the major difference within this matchup, is that one deck is just trying to beat you more, and the other is just trying not to lose.
Yep.
And that's my biggest problem with blue-white decks in general, is that they don't really have a good sideboard strategy for certain matchups. You know, I don't like the sideboard strategy of I'm just going to try not to lose, which it always feels like that's what blue-white's trying to do. Yeah,
I mean, it's just I don't think they have a game plan in which they can go proactive against this deck. I think they can only sideboard into being reactive.
Yeah, I think Esper kind of has more options, just because, you know, you could bring in Night Veil Spectre in certain matchups. Like you have a little more flexibility in terms of how proactive you can be. Chihoi has 4 Fiendslayer Paladins, but again, in this particular matchup, it's just not very good. So I think he's going to be in a tough spot after board here, particularly the fact that even if Chris loses game 2, he's going to get one more game on the play, which means sometimes you just lose to turn 2 Domri, you know? So we'll see what happens here. Chihoi will be on the play this game. Looks like both players are still shuffling. Chris shuffles back, and now they're going to draw their 7-card hand to see if they want to keep.
And I think there's like a pretty wide range of hands that Chihoi can keep in this matchup. You know, I think he's just going to keep, 3 lands, 4 spells. Like, I think it's a keep or whatever. And he just has to hope, I think, that VanMeter's draw just doesn't line up, because it feels like to me that after sideboard, VanMeter is very advantaged. He's just presenting so many powerful threats, and he can do them ahead of schedule, just like this with Elvish Mystic off a Stomping Ground.
It really comes down to whether or not VanMeter makes his land drops, because that's one of the few ways you can beat their deck, is like, all right, they have all these powerful spells, but they only have 3 or 4 mana in play. It doesn't matter, you know. If they get those heavy mana dork hands, and you're able to sweep them all away with the Supreme Verdict.
Turn 2 Domri is going to resolve here. Chris not scared of Syncopate or Negate or anything of that nature. Going to put that on the table, and again, he's just going to be proactive the entire time. Just a bunch of Haymaker threats. You know, Domri can generate card advantage. The ultimate is something that Chihoi has to keep in mind in the back of his mind. Now, of course, like, they have Detention Sphere, and, maybe renounce the guilds and banish, like, a bunch of ways to take care of Domri, but again, it's still something you have to worry about and take care of. All he can do right now is just play a land and pass the turn back.
Yeah, and it looks like Chris even has a Rakdos return in his hand, so he doesn't have black mana right now, but he's got a Mutavault in play as well, so pretty good situation for Chris. Let's see what he wants to do here, if he wants to play Sylvan Caryatid right here.
Yeah, I mean, he opens himself up to getting hit by Supreme Verdict and losing some of his creatures, because his creatures are helping him provide mana right now, and Caryatid would provide the mana fixing. He's going to play an Elvish Mystic. Maybe he'll fire up with a Mutavault, maybe he won't. Looks like he's going to add a Sylvan Caryatid here, basically inviting Chihoi to cast Supreme Verdict. Now, the other thing here that's I think is really interesting is, like, he's inviting Chihoi to cast Supreme Verdict, but at the same time, if Chihoi decides, okay, I don't have Supreme Verdict, I'm going to cast Jace, he gets destroyed by a Rakdos return.
He gets destroyed by a Rakdos return. So, yeah, I kind of like this play, too, from Chris, just because, again, he still has an active Domri in play. So, basically, if Chihoi casts Supreme Verdict here, that means that my Domri is going to get another activation next turn, another step closer to being ultimate. Plus, I have Abrupt Decay, so... yeah, Chris dodges Supreme Verdict here.
No, he dodges Supreme and Jace. Just there's nothing for him to do. So he can just keep kind of working as normal with this Jace. He's going to play Temple of Abandon first. And you saw last turn when Chris missed with his Domri, he looked at his hand and was a little bit frustrated. Maybe I should have played Temple there to ensure that I hit. Now he does play Temple pre-Domri. Puts the top card to the bottom, misses again. And even though he's not generating a lot of card advantage, again, he just has this threat. It's like a ticking time bomb on the table. That Chihoi, eventually you have to move to take care of this. Yeah,
and Chihoi doesn't really have a lot of instant speed ways to deal with that. He has, obviously, Fated Retribution, but that costs 7 mana. So eventually he might have to tap out on his turn, which means, again, Rakdos return is live. So
you put him in the squeeze.
Yep. Turn 2 Domri. Pretty good against control decks. Let's see what Chihoi decides to do here. Chihoi does have a Mutavault in his side, so Chris can't really attack yet.
Yeah, I was wondering if Chris might fire from Mutavault on his side, firing up maybe you know, maybe attacking the Elvish Mystic and daring Chihoy to block because he has Rampager in his deck. So, you know, you could make an argument for getting in there. Does he leave Rampager after sideboard? Maybe yes, maybe no.
I think that's one of the reasons you see Domri missing a lot more after sideboard.
Oh, yeah.
He's a lot more spell heavy after board.
I mean, he's got the creatures that he has pre-board are Elvish Mystic, Caryatid, Scavenging Ooze, Courser, Core Clan Rampager, Pulachronos, and Stormbreath Dragon, but you have to assume that he's boarding out some of those creatures to board in some of these awesome spells. He is boarding a couple creatures in, too, in Mistcutter Hydra.
It looks like Chris drew a Golgari Charm.
Pretty good.
So a lot of ways to deal with the tension spheres. Misses yet again with Domri, but Domri will go ultimate next turn if Chihoy doesn't find the answer to it.
Truthfully, it's not that surprising to me that he, like, I don't expect him to miss, you know, 4 times in a row or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't expect him to hit all 4 times either, especially after sideboard.
He's not going to hit very often. So.
Chris going to play Overgrown Tomb untapped. Maybe signaling that he wants to cast this Rakdos Return. I like how patient he's been with it so far.
Yeah, really no reason to do anything just yet. You want to get as much value as you can out of it.
Yeah, look, this is him making an announcement. A little surprised not to see him do it with the carry. Oh, well, okay. I take it back. I was surprised not to see him tap mana for the Caryatid, but he wants to be able to defend his Domri from Mutavault.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me. I hope for Chihoy's sake he has something. Oh my.
Might be a Sphinx Revelation for 2.
Oh my goodness, this is resolving? I did not expect that. He's going to draw 2 cards. He's going to discard 5.
Well, the good news is that he could actually at least attack Domri down for 2. He has 2 Mutavaults in play, so he can actually drop the Domri down to 5, so it won't go ultimate next turn to buy himself at least a couple more turns. But yeah, obviously very tough spot here. He's going to have to go down to, I believe, 2 cards total in his hand.
I mean, yeah, if it's either 2 or 1. It's not many.
And taking 5.
Yeah. That was brutal. I did not expect that to resolve, honestly. And I think you asked Chris, I think he'd be surprised at that result, too.
Well, it's possible that Chihoy doesn't have that many counterspells after burn. Maybe he felt like it's kind of a losing battle to keep in that much permission and just bring in more proactive spells. But, I mean, I have seen some control decks try to go for that strategy. The problem is, though, you just expose yourself so much to cards like this, or there's just too many cards that you can just lose to. So
you see you guys might not be able to see the cards at home in Chiho's hand. He has a Revelation, Aetherling, and a land. He's got 7 cards in his hand right now. He has to discard 5 of these cards. And I think the decision he's coming to right now is, all right, I think I have to keep land Aetherling, play my land, play Aetherling, and literally just cross my fingers.
Yep.
And hope that this is going to get the job done.
And that is a reasonable strategy. I mean, it's not the craziest thing in the world.
He discarded 2 more Revs, a Celestial Flare, a Plains, and an Azorius Charm. And I think that's the only thing he can do is just say, all right, draw my card, play a land, play Aetherling, please don't kill it. Yes, your Domri gets to go ultimate, but I can actually race it. And he can race it very effectively because VanMeter's at 16.
Yeah. 2
8-point shots and protect it. Another Rakdos Return was the draw from Chris. Chris doesn't have any pressure.
Yeah, Chris has a Mutavault, but that's about it. There's really, Chihoy could actually go all the way with this Aetherling.
And even though Chris can activate the ultimate on Domri, and he's got another Rakdos Return, and a Golgari Charm, and an Abrupt Decay, none of those cards interact with Aetherling currently. So as strange as this is to see, and this is part of the reason that I like Aetherling in the main deck of decks like this, is because, you know, the Elixir versions of this deck, sure, they can play the super long game, but it's like you mentioned when we were talking about it earlier, Elixir doesn't actually win you the game.
Yeah.
Aetherling is a card that can steal you a game. You never draw Elixir and you go, I stole that one. That doesn't ever happen. But, you know, having Aetherling out here right now, this could actually steal Chihoy a game that he would not otherwise be able to win.
Yeah, let's see here, because Chris does have that Rakdos Return. He could try to cast it here to get some more damage against you. But again, he has to be worried about what he taps here. Because if he's just going to tap out to cast Rakdos Return, so yeah, he casts Rakdos Return for what, 6, I believe now? Dropping Chihoy to 10. So now Chihoy can actually activate both Mutavaults and attack and pump. So Chris can attack back for potentially 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Depends on what you draw. I mean, if he draws a creature, it has haste and double strike and all that stuff. But I mean, right now we know his hand is Golgari Charm and Abrupt Decay, so that's not that's not an option.
Theoretically, Chihoy can just try to drop Chris down to 6 and win with Aetherling next turn.
You saw him slide the Mutavaults over.
Yeah, he's thinking about it. I mean, obviously, he's got to figure all right, if Chris draws a Stormbreath Dragon, I'm dead no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing he knows as well is that, you know, again, after sideboard, the Jund Monsters deck has a high density of spells, and Chris has not drawn a creature.
Yeah.
Like, that much is very clear. So, you know, if you're able to deduce the information, it's like, okay, what's Chris's hand? It's likely to be just spells, not a creature.
Well, the real thing is you're never going to get better opportunity to attack with your Mutavaults than now. You know, this turn, you can actually generate the most amount of damage.
Oh, is he going? Oh, he's going. I think he might be going lifelink. That's huge.
Wow, that's pretty huge here. So yeah, so he's actually going to be able to gain 8 life, go up to 18, and drop Chris to 8, still threatening lethal next turn.
That's insane. That was an insane draw. Chris draws a Sylvan Caryatid. That has no effect.
The thing is, we know that Chris has a Golgari Charm, so it can shrink the 8th link, so he won't die next turn. But yeah, the life link here was huge for Shihoy.
The scary thing too is that he might be able to catch Aetherlink and kill it, depending on what Shihoy does.
Yeah, if Shihoy basically has to use a blue to make it unblockable, attack, pump for 4, he'll still have 1 mana left to pump its toughness. But then again, the 4/5 gets exposed to some sort of removal spell potentially. Yeah. But there's not, I don't think he has that much removal. He has Dreadbore. I'm not sure if that's even in the board. Yeah.
Wow, this is a really interesting game.
This is a pretty tight game.
Yeah. I haven't seen a game like this, like in this matchup ever.
It looked like Chris definitely had this one. Unfortunately, just wasn't drawing any threats off that Domri. His only attackers are 2 Elvish Mystics. He does have that Mutavault, but yeah, not really making too much use of that emblem from Domri Rod.
All right, here comes Mutavault. We're attacking. This is 2, 3, 4. You can double it because of the double strike, so this will be an attack here for 8.
So
what a wild way to maybe lose a game.
Wow, yeah. And so if he drops him down to 10, could Gore-Clan Rampager still win them the game? I believe so.
Gotta try. I mean, don't forget either. The other thing that's really important here too is, let's see what Chris is casting. He's gonna cast a Caryatid, okay.
Yeah, so he potentially block 2 Mutavaults if he has to.
Yeah, don't forget the other thing too that's interesting about this is that the Golgari Charm, giving -1/-1, that's effect is symmetrical, so he's gonna lose those Mystics.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So you lose the Mystics. But then again, okay, so basically, if Shihoy does make this play, though, he's going to have to go all in. So he's going to have to tap all his mana, which means that I think Stormbreath Dragon won't be live, but Gore-Clan Rampager will be live, I believe. Oh, no, because the Aetherling will come back. No, Aetherling is just going to pump the toughness. So, yeah, I think Gore-Clan Rampager would still be live for VanMeter. So let's see what Shihoy decides to do here. I have to imagine he's just going to go for it here. I mean,
he's been going for it the entire time, right?
Yeah, you had a plan. Don't waver from it. He has 2 mana up. Think about what could he cast for 2 mana.
Given that he's playing against Jund Monsters, it's a very limited number of cards.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, could he have Ultimate Price? Would he have that in his deck after sideboard? Probably not. You know, it can really, like, to me, I think once Shihoy thinks this turn through, he can probably deduce that this can only really be one thing. Or 2 things. It can be 1, that he's just bluffing, or 2, it's charm.
But I actually think Shihoy is probably thinking too much. Yeah, I think you're overthinking it. Like you have no other option. You have to make Aetherling unblockable, attack, and pump for 4. If he has something, then you either blink it out if it's a removal spell, or you pump its toughness. But you have no other options. You're dealing with an emblem here. You're gonna die if you just do nothing. You're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, there's your attack plus unblockable. All right, you saw him look up. Chris goes, that's fine. Is he gonna move in, and how is he gonna do it?
God, it's so close. It's such a tight game.
It's funny because I bet he wants to pace this in such a way that he can just do it in 2 turns and not have to move it all in 1, right? Because look at the way he organizes lands with the Mutavaults. And now he might be kind of second-guessing himself or just thinking things through.
You give Chris even more outs. Like, let's say you just you attack for 4 right here. Then if Chris draws an Ultimate Price next turn...
If that's in his deck.
Yeah, but you don't know. I mean, if you don't think he has Ultimate Price, then what are you afraid of here?
All right, he's tapping a bunch of mana. It looks like he might be moving in.
I mean, you have to think, okay, one card that he could realistically have is Golgari Charm, because that deals with attention spheres. I can see him having that after board.
All right, he's going to activate one more time. Chris says, I may have a response. That's the 4th activation. So right now, Aetherling is a 7-2 with the 4th activation on the stack to make it an 8-1. You have to imagine that Chris knows, yeah, this is my play. I'm casting Golgari Charm. Yep. And I think that Shihui figured that was the only way that it was he could get out of the situation. So he switches the toughness. And so the damage is going to be dealt here. He's going to play an island. I wonder if he blinks out. Blinking out's actually pretty good here. Yeah, getting this back and passing the turn.
So let's see here. Rampager is no longer out, but it's really good draw.
The Rampager's still really good. Overgrown Tomb is not.
Wow, so it looks like Chris VanMeter is going to lose this game.
Wow. A Rakdos return for 5, a Domri emblem that never hit a creature. And Shihui Yim ends up winning this game over Chris VanMeter. We're going to a 3rd one, and he can't believe it.
Yeah, so that's all Blue-White needs to do to beat their monsters. Just literally just run Aetherling out there on turn 6, just slam it down.
Reed Duke chiming on Twitter, sick game, exclamation point. I got to agree, I can't believe that Shihui Yim just won this game. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure there's anything VanMeter could have done differently given what his draws were like. I mean, he might have pulled the trigger on Rakdos Return a little too soon, perhaps.
No way.
It's not inconceivable. I mean, he could have waited. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can't really fault him for casting Rakdos Return.
I don't want to say he got unlucky because like he missed with Domri a bunch of times, because I think that's unreasonable to say, because like, he's boarding into a more spell-dense deck, and also, I mean, like Shihui didn't do anything on the first 5 turns of the game.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of absurd to say, oh, well, Chris got unlucky because he didn't hit creatures. Like, I think that both players, like, it was just kind of a weird game, and whatever happened. But like, I don't think like you can fault him for casting Rakdos Return when he did. Maybe he's supposed to do it for 1 more because he left a Caryatid back.
Well, he was trying to protect his Domri, I think.
Yeah, he was trying to protect his Domri from Mutavault attacking it. So, I mean, that makes sense, too, because not only that, like, he protects his Domri from Mutavault attacking it, but it forces Shihui to fire up both Mutavaults to be able to deal 2 damage to it so it doesn't ultimate. And that's essentially Shihui's turn, which is fire up 2 Mutavaults, use 4 mana on your own turn.
So I don't really blame. Yeah, I think Chris is. Obviously, if Chris hits a creature there, the game's over. If he hit a creature with any of his Domri activations,
yeah, like,
game over.
An actual, like an Elvish Mystic would have been fine.
Yeah. Or even if he draws a creature, like one of the 2 turns after he activates, he wins the game. So, yeah, Chris just got a little unlucky there. I mean, but I have to give it up to Shihui, though. That was a great, I mean, he drew 2 cards off the Revelations, and he just thought, okay, I'm losing 5 cards here. I'm only going to have 2 cards left. What's my best line to win this game? And he was like, all right, it's land, jam Aetherling in there, and just hope for the best. It worked out.
That's all you can do.
And I think a lot of players, if you're a newer player, you're trying to figure out, like, how do I succeed? That's a perfect game to watch, because Shihui was very poised, very patient. A lot of players, especially if you're a blue-white control deck and you get Rakdos Return for 5, you would be like, oh, God, this is terrible. You might just give up right there. But Shihui was just patient and just figured out what the best line was for him.
And you saw him almost keep a Revelation instead of the land for Aetherling.
Yeah, and the thing is, he still needs to get lucky with that line. Like,
I agree.
It's not just land Aetherling and I'm good.
Yeah.
Like you need to make sure that Chris has to brick on creatures a couple of turns, but that's still a line of play. Like that is, it could happen, and it just did. So I think you can't think about, okay, how unlikely is this going to happen? If that's your best line of play to take, you got to take it. You can't concern yourself with oh, what are the odds that I'm going to win this way? I mean, if you have a couple of lines to choose from, fine. But clearly in that situation, that's his best line. That's his only line, really.
Well, we can't forget about the Azorius Charm either. That played a big role too, the lifelink there.
Yeah, because we were thinking, we didn't know what he had in his hand, but we were thinking, okay, well, he could just attack now for 8 or 10, dropping him to 6 and killing him next turn. However, yeah, that lifelink played a huge role there. So let's see here.
Pretty insane game.
Pretty insane
That's pretty insane game. Maybe a little best of SCG moment there.
I think it's going to be pretty unfortunate if Chris loses this match. Losing that insane game and the fact that we've been showing replays of his dictate to spin god loss earlier, I feel pretty bad for Chris if he loses this match. But again, you got to feel pretty good for Chris's chances being on the play now, and given how close that second game was.
Here's the big one: composure. I mean, when you lose a game like that,
yeah, you got to. Yeah, but I mean, Chris has been playing long enough and taking enough bad beats, as like all of us have, that he probably is not going to let this one tilt him at all.
Yeah. And he's going to keep his opener. We'll see if Chihoi's going to keep his.
And I got to say, like, even though Chris lost that second game, both games I felt like he was really the one in control all the time.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, he's the proactive deck. He's going to be in control for, I feel like, the most part. Chihoi's going to take a mulligan here. So while he does that, we'll take a look at our Season 2 leaderboard here really quickly for you guys. The man on the right is the guy who's leading. You see the one next to his name. The reason why is because he's got 147 Open Series points. BBD Trophy next to his name. He's already qualified for the Players' Championship. Season 1 point earner. He had the most Open Series points there. Eric Rill, 126. But he's got 2 losses this weekend, so he's got to have a big day tomorrow. That's the long and short of it.
He basically has to win the Open tomorrow.
Yeah, and then, you know, if he goes to Providence next weekend, who knows? Maybe he has to spike the Invitational. See Fabiano with 118, Joe Lissette 116, Jensen Jones and Davis. They round out the top 8 players, but CVM with 147. That's a lot of Open Series points. Wow. It is pretty much his race to lose. It would take something unbelievable to happen, but given what we just saw, I guess that's within the realm of possibility here.
Yeah, after that game, I think anything's possible. Yeah. I'm not going to put it past him.
Don't lock it up just yet. But we'll see if he can win this game. That's why they give you 3.
I mean, I'm rooting for him. To be that determined to win it, I think he put in the work. He deserves it. Hopefully it works out. Sitting at 6-0 right here. Pretty good start. Chihoi is mulliganing to 6, and what is probably already a good matchup for Chris. So Chris got to be feeling a little bit good, even maybe not too overconfident after the second game, but still.
Yeah, Ratchet's return for 5. That resolves. Pardon me? What did you just say? You see an overgrown tomb here for VanMeter. Chihoi drew an Elixir of Immortality for the turn. Going to play a Temple of Enlightenment, scrying that card to the top. Just going to pass the turn back over to VanMeter. We'll see if he's got anything to accelerate with here. You see the Vraska in his hand along with the Pool of Chronos. Mutavault was shifted to the front. He's going to tap 2, and there's a Scavenging Ooze. So no acceleration, but a clock to begin things here in game number 3. Yim draws his card for the turn. It is a Plains. Going to pass the turn back over to VanMeter. VanMeter's going to take a draw. That's a Sylvan Carry. It's a little late to the party, but better late than never. Doesn't look like Chris has any red mana just yet. I don't think his hand needs it, but I mean, at some point he's going to need it for Stormbreath Dragons and other powerful cards that he has access to in his deck.
Yeah, he doesn't have... Yeah, it looks like he's a Polychronos, Vraska as like the 2 big threats there. Looks like another copy of Scavenging Ooze as well. So let's see if he wants to decide to do this here. Does he want to try to get the Carotid into play to give himself some red mana, or does he want to just attack with Mutavault and Scavenging Ooze? Is he afraid of Azorius Charm, setting his mana back a little bit?
Last Breath, maybe. I don't know if that'd be in Chihoi's deck after sideboard, even if he had access to it.
Yeah, I mean, it deals with Mutavault and kills Carotid, so maybe, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure I'd wanted that card. So let's see what Chris decides to do here. Yep, looks like he's just going to attack first. This Chihoi, Chihoi does have a Celestial Flare.
Okay. I wonder if that's an exchange that Chihoi's happy to make. I mean, you just want to get the cards out of your hand so you can refill with Revelation. This is an overrun tomb. VanMeter's going to go down to 18, going to play Scavenging Ooze with the ability to activate that Ooze to remove the Ooze in the graveyard, make it to a 3/3 creature. Yim's going to draw a card.
Yeah, it's possible Chihoi is afraid that he doesn't want to just fall too far behind, especially after mulliganing. He just wants to try to make sure there's no pressure. Obviously, Celestial Flare's prime target is Stormbreath Dragon.
There's an island. D-Sphere, maybe? Banishing Light is going to be a D-Sphere. Just some simple one-for-one trades at this point in the game. Yim's going to pass the turn back over to VanMeter, who's going to draw a card. You see the Golgari Charm in his hand. Picked up a Domri for the turn. Doesn't have red mana yet. Does he want to take a turn off, for lack of a better term, to play this Sylvan Caryatid?
Yeah, and these are the exact type of games that Blue-White hopes for against Jund, where they stumble on their mana or they're a little color screwed, and they can kind of take advantage of that. Because, again, Jund monsters, yeah, they have a lot of proactive cards, but if they can't cast them, it doesn't really matter. So So far, despite a mulligan to 6, Chihoy has to be pretty happy with how things are starting out right now.
VanMeter just going to pass the turn back after playing the Caryatid. He's going to draw a card. It's a copy of Sphinx's Revelation. He does have a 4th land in his hand in the Hollowed Fountain. He's going to play that tap and just pass the turn back, represent a counter spell at this point or some sort of other reactive spell. He does have a Syncopate in his hand right now. VanMeter draws a card. It's a forest. So the only red source of mana that he has is from that Sylvan Caryatid.
So that was a good draw here. Chris can actually play the forest and attempt to cast a Domri here, and he'll still have 2 mana up to play around Syncopate. So pretty good draw there from Chris. Let's see what he decides to do, though. He does have a Vraska, too. He might try to just get the Vraska into play and deal with that Detention Sphere. However, he has to be a little bit concerned about a card like Dissolve or Syncopate. Let's see what he says. It looks like that Vraska play, though. He is thinking about it. That would be great news for Chihoy.
That's appealing, but he's going to go with the Domri play.
Okay, so good. Wisely decides to go with Domri, playing around Syncopate.
He's playing around Syncopate he hasn't seen yet, either.
Yeah, he hasn't even seen it.
Going to tick up here.
Ooh, yet another miss. I think it's like 6 in a row now.
He's never going to find one. Able to leave up a copy of Golgari Charm right now as well. Chihoy's going to untap that Hollow Fountain. He'll take a draw here. Picks up a Plains. Again, he's got a Revelation, Elixir, Syncopate in the grip, Supreme Verdict as well. Those are the 5 cards.
Somehow, I think if we get that Domri emblem in this game, it's going to be somewhat better than the last game.
Elixir will resolve. Chris does not have any responses. A Plains here from Yim and just passing the turn back. Will we fire off the Golgari Charm? It looks like we will. Chris says, I want my Scavenging Ooze back. Be able to start putting some pressure on you.
Yeah, with having a Supreme Verdict in your hand, I don't think Chihoy is going to bother casting Syncopate there.
Also, I don't think you can counter that with the fact that like a Rakdos Return or something else is just going to absolutely annihilate you.
Yeah.
Dreadbore the draw.
Dreadbore, interesting. I wonder if he decided, I'm not losing to tap that 8th inning anymore.
Chris's hand has to pull Kranos, the Dreadbore, and that copy of Vraska. In theory, he could add another card to his hand with Domri, but I think we both know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think Chris is actually ever hitting with Domri again.
Now he's trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do this turn. If you're in Chris's spot, what do you want to do?
I don't know. I kind of like attacking with the Mutavault and the Scavenging Ooze, just to get some information and then activating Domri. Again, this is another situation where he attacks first in case there's an Azorius Charm before activating Domri.
Ooze is going to remove the Ooze from the graveyard. Looks like this is going to be a 5-point hit. Yes. So Chris is really pacing this game. He's going to tick up Domri here.
Hello.
Oh, is that, do my eyes deceive me?
Quite the hit.
Not only did he hit, I can't believe he hit, but he also hit a good card.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, Chris can potentially have a 3-turn clock here, although Chihoy will gain 5 life going up to 20.
Elixir going to shuffle in those cards, going to gain those 5 life, as you did mention. So again, you know, what Chris is basically doing here is he's kind of pacing the game a little bit slowly. He could just dump threats onto the table like Polakranos and stuff like that, and then, you know, get swept away by a Supreme Verdict, which probably wouldn't be the best. So, you know, he's kind of pacing the game pretty slowly here, just taking out, you know, little hits. I've got a Mutavault and I've got a Scavenging Ooze. You have to clear things up that way. That can work sometimes against this deck. It can also come back to hurt you when they start to revelate.
Well, the good news for Chris is he's attacking him effectively from 2 angles. He's attacking him, like, literally with 2 creatures, but he's also attacking you with the Domri uptick, threatening to eventually go ultimate. So I kind of like Chris's play here, just because you're not overexposing yourself to Supreme Verdict. You're really only losing 2 creatures. One of them can't even attack, and you still have that Domri upticking 2 turns away from going ultimate. So looks like Chihoy's deciding what he wants to do here. He still has that Syncopate in his hand, but Chris is not really giving him a good opportunity to use it.
I was going to say, do you think it's ever getting any value at Syncopate?
At this point, it's probably not. I mean, if you think about it, VanMeter really doesn't have to cast Mistcutter next turn. I'm sure Chihoy is hoping he does, so the Supreme Verdict gets as much value as it can.
Yeah.
But VanMeter might just be happy not casting anything.
That was a pretty big draw.
Continuing to uptick.
Golgari Charm was the draw for the turn. He could play, man, this gets really interesting. He's going to start by uptaking. There's a Gorkland Rampager. So what's interesting about this is he could just play like a baby miscutter and still have the ability to leave up Golgari Charm and the ability to pay for it. I mean, it would be a 1-1 miscutter, which is nothing exciting. And you probably want more out of your miscutter Hydra than that. But
you can get a 2-2, right?
So if he makes it a 2-2, and then Chihoi draws a land,
oh, so he can syncopate.
He could verdict and then syncopate for 1. But I think Chris is just going to move in here with the miscutter. And I actually like this because now this forces Chihoi to have a Wrath. Not only that, but it forces Chihoi to have a Wrath, but also he has to tap his resources to do that. And then Chris can, get a Vraska into play or, something like that. Again, you kind of mentioned in the previous game, he's just dictating everything.
Yeah. He's putting all the pressure on Chihoi and forcing the action. He's basically he's making Chihoi make all the plays he wants him to make.
This is a rev for 2. A verdict and a land was drawn. Now there's an Azorius Guildgate to draw for the turn. Chihoi is going to play an island. He's going to cast a Supreme Verdict. That's going to clear up these creatures. I think the most important thing to note here is that the Sylvan Keratin is gone, providing mana.
Yeah, red mana in particular. So Domri's still in play, threatening to go ultimate next turn.
Oh, we'll draw Blood Grip. Red mana, no problem.
So if I'm VanMeter, I think you probably just get Polychronos out there.
I'm going to start by taking up, see what he finds. Nothing this time. You want to go with Polychronos? Maybe not Rampage or anything like that? I guess Rampage is probably a little better, especially in combination with Mutavault.
Yeah, I think Rampager with Mutavault, you might as well hold on to it. So Polychronos here, if he has another Supreme Verdict, you can technically go ultimate next turn and do like 12. So yeah, Polychronos is going to come down here.
And Chris has played around Syncopate this entire game. So I'm not surprised to not see that change now. So there is Polychronos. This is going to be a Cyclone Azorius Charm. Yim's going to draw a card.
And Chihoi knows Azorius Charm's not really going to do me much if that Domri goes ultimate, so I might as well just get some value out of it now.
He needs to find a Banish Light or a Attention Sphere right now. I don't think he gets to escape the emblem twice.
He does have 1 Faded Retribution in his deck, so that is another card that would help him out here, but he does not have a 7th mana just yet.
Azorius Guildgate plus pass is the turn here for Yim. VanMeter draws his card. It's a copy of Xenagos the Reveler.
Wow, another good Planeswalker. Domri here, I'd have to imagine is going to want to go ultimate. VanMeter is still afraid of maybe Celestial Flare to kill his Polychronos, along with, beyond that, there's really not much.
I think, Chris, you see Chris smiling now. So if I lose 2 games in a row with the Domri emblem, this beard's never coming off.
Could be Quicken, Supreme Verdict.
It could be Quicken Wrath, yeah. Here's an attack for a bunch. Yep, it is Quicken Wrath.
Wow. So that is a pretty good situation.
Catching the Mutavault's actually a really big game here.
Yeah, that's huge.
But Chris does have a Golgari Charm. He can regenerate his creatures. Yeah, and that's pretty good too. So he's going to regenerate everything here. Even though it's a great turn for Chihoi, it's a better turn for Chris because he doesn't lose his resources and can present the next attack, the exact same attack again next turn.
Yeah, he's basically doing the same thing, except Polychronos is hexproof now, so there's really nothing that basically he needs Supreme Verdict to deal with it.
Temple of Enlightenment was the draw. There's also Plains there for Yim. He does have a Revelation in his hand. And if he plays the untapped land, he could Revelate for 5, so he's at a virtual 20 right now. And he's just going to play that and pass the turn back. However, because the creatures do have hexproof, it is very, very safe to move in with a Gore-Clan Rampager. You saw Chris pick up a copy of Rakdos' Return.
Wow. So let's see here. Are we going to see Activate Mutavault attack with both creatures? Rampager?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have Faded Retribution? Do you have...
Quicken Verdict again?
Yeah. There's already 2 verdicts in the graveyard.
Hey, he's going to fire this up. In we go.
He's got Xenagos the Reveler still in his hand as a follow-up play if he needs to next turn. So I think Chris is pretty, and he also has that Rakdos Return as well. So I think Chris feels pretty good about this play.
Yeah, there's Rampager on Polychronos. That's baked into a 9-power creature. That's 18, 19, 20. That's an attack for 22. Yim is looking at his hand. He's looking at a Sphinx's Revelation. That's a mighty fine card.
So let's see here. Sphinx's Revelation for 5 at most. Do you do it for 3 to try to draw into Celestial Flare, but then Chris just sacks the Mutavault, and you still take an 18, which is what you'd be up to, so.
No, yeah, you're right.
So let's see here. Sphinx's Revelation.
If it's for 3, he goes up to 18. Azorius Charm doesn't do it.
Zorstrom doesn't do anything. Celestial Flare, he just won't. Yep.
And that's going to do it.
That's
Chris VanMeter gets the job done yet again. A smile on his face. 7-0 with Jund Monsters defeating Chihoy Yim playing blue-white control. One hell of a match.
That was a hell of a match, yeah.
Yeah.
And even the last game, I mean, Chris is in total control. But yeah, I mean, there was still an opportunity there. Maybe Chihoy, if he chose Fatal Retribution, is able to deal with Domri and the creature. But yeah, again, I think it just shows you how good Jund Monsters is against control. I mean, they just have too many threats that you have to deal with.
The other thing, too, is I just like that Chris knows he knows exactly how he wants to pace the game.
Yeah.
And exactly what he wants to do every step of the way. You know, maybe a lesser player gets one of their spells tagged by Syncopate. At the end of the game, Chihoy ends the game with the Syncopate in his hand, essentially a mulligan. Didn't do anything over the course of the entire game.
Yeah, Chris definitely played around everything he needed to play around, and he dictated the tempo of the match, dictated what was going to get cast, what wasn't going to get cast, what Chihoy was going to do. Almost, it felt like he was basically telegraphing all of Chihoy's plays.
Yeah. So congratulations again to Chris VanMeter, second place in Somerset last weekend. Looking to improve on that here, 7-0 here in Indianapolis. And one heck of a second game that Yim was able to win to even push it to a third one. That'll definitely be part of the best of SCG highlight reel. But VanMeter comes out on top yet again with Jund Monsters. Deck is